Borno State Police Command thwarts explosion, educates community on risk awareness.
Collaborative effort yields improved security in Kaduna State.
We will continue to maintain the tempo with your support. We will continue to push, and our troops are ready and willing.
National Senior Citizens Center donates devices to communities in Anambra State.
And good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall focus on developments in the health sector.
All right, the data we have indicates that Nigeria's health sector recorded significant milestones in the outgone year 2024, and that's due to efforts ramped up by government to tackle long-standing challenges and, of course, boosting healthcare delivery.
From tackling inadequate funding and poor infrastructure to addressing the shortage of medical professionals, the outgone year saw a renewed focus on solutions. However, the supply chain issues plaguing access to medicines and vaccines remain a persistent challenge.
All right, let's look at some of the initiatives. The Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, BHCPF, National Health Insurance Authority Act of 2022, as well as Public-Private Partnership. All of these helped the government reforms aimed at transforming healthcare delivery and improving healthcare infrastructure.
And of course, as we enter 2025, the focus shifts to strengthening primary health care, addressing the brain drain and increasing funding to ensure more impactful healthcare outcomes.
All right, the hurdles notwithstanding, 2024 laid a foundation for sustainable hope. There are signs that Nigeria's health sector can achieve transformational change. And so this morning, we'll be examining the successes, the gaps, the challenges, and of course, the pathway ahead in 2025, with insights, of course, from experts and key interest players within the system.
All right, so stay with us as we explore the state of healthcare in Nigeria and the promises of a new year.
Once again, I'm Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak, and it's our pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria today, and it's your every morning tonic.
I'm Yanwe John. We're coming to you live on the network service of the NTA, and we're right here at our headquarters in Abuja. In a short while, Chukwudi Koliugbaja will join us for newspaper review. But for now, let's have the morning news with Musa Abubakar as our guide. Musa, good morning to you.
Good morning to both of you. Here's the news. Kaduna State, once plagued by banditry and kidnapping, is witnessing a significant turnaround in its security situation. The once troubled areas of Birnamwari and Giwa local government are now experiencing a return to peace, with incidents of banditry and kidnapping for ransom gradually diminishing. According to Governor Ubasani, the state has seen a remarkable improvement in security, thanks to the collaborative efforts of the government and security agencies. The governor attributes this success to the robust collaboration with security agencies, increased synergy between stakeholders, and effective intelligence gathering and sharing. The Minister of Defense's recent visit to Kaduna is a testament to the state's progress in combating insecurity. The minister commended the gallant security personnel and Governor Ubasani for his critical role in supporting the security agencies.
And we will continue to maintain the tempo with your support. We will continue to push, and our troops are ready and willing.
In a swift operation, the Borno State Police Command, led by Commissioner Yusufu Muhammad Lawal, averted a potential explosion and recovered 3 projectiles in the Dala Kafanti area of Maiduguri. The incident occurred on Thursday when a resident spotted a suspicious sack behind her house in Dala Kafanti. The police's explosive ordnance disposal unit, EOD, secured the area and recovered the projectiles, which primarily investigations suggest were abandoned by unknown individuals earlier that morning. To enhance public safety, the police educated the community on explosive ordnance, risk awareness, and safety precautions. Commissioner Lowell reassured residents of the police's dedication to public safety, urging citizens to remain vigilant and report suspicious activities or objects through the emergency contact 080-6807-5581 or 080-2347-3293. This operation demonstrates the police's commitment to protecting lives and property in Borno State, which has faced security challenges in recent years. Now, to enhance the lives of the elderly and individuals with disabilities, the National Senior Citizens Center has donated assistive devices to 2 communities in Anambra State. The beneficiaries located in Akuzu, Oyi, and Amabia, Oka South local government areas receive a range of devices tailored to improve their quality of life. The center donated wheelchairs, guide canes for the visually impaired, hearing aids, crutches, and diabetic test kits, among other devices. The NSCC presented the devices to beneficiaries in Amabia, the Ignatius Akubude Center, which advocates for dementia care and alleviates the impact of Alzheimer's disease in communities. Additionally, a physiotherapy clinic equipped by the Traditional Council of Akuzu was commissioned to provide rehabilitation services to the community. 352 intending pilgrims to Jerusalem have been airlifted at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. This is the first batch from Abuja this year, with the Executive Secretary of the Commission calling on them to pray for Nigeria and renew their faith in Jesus Christ.
Like most people are, they're just doubting Thomases. But when they go and they really see those sites that they've been reading about, they get more spiritual and they get more involved in their Christian activities.
This journey is a spiritual journey. It's not a jamboree. It's not for window shopping. It's not for shopping. It's for spiritual reawakening of their soul. And they must abide by the rules set up by Israeli government and also the government of Nigeria.
The House of Representatives Northern Caucus has offered condolences to Jigawa State Governor Malam Umar Namadi following the tragic loss of his mother, Hajia Mariam Namadi Umar, and son, Abdul Wahab Umar Namadi. Led by Chairman Al-Hassan Adudugwa, the delegation visited Dutse to pay their respects and pray for the repose of the departed souls. The governor's mother passed away on December 25th, 2024, after a brief illness, while his son died in a fatal accident just a day later. The people of Jigawa State are currently mourning the double tragedy that has befallen their governor.
Of this nature happens, we are not, as human beings, we are not to question what Allah has done.
Almighty Allah will forgive their sins and grant them eternal rest.
Well, those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Clear and Eerie after the commercial break. Please don't go away.
To all our viewers, we say thank you. A good TV station means different things to different people. What made NTA stand out for you in 2024?
Babu shakka, babu wani gidan talabijin a ƙasar nan da ke nuna al'adu kamar yadda gidan talabijin na ƙasa wato NTA ke nunawa.
Kò sí ibikíbi tí ẹ wà ní orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà tí ẹ ò ti lè wo ilé-iṣẹ́ tẹlifíṣàn ìjọba àpapọ̀ NTA kétékété kódà tó fi di abúlé wa.
Standard
NTA Bataruro. Oko Okpa. Okadigun Okoko now. NTA Kalisia Kali.
Strength, information, outstanding performance. NTA got the steez.
For decades, we've towered high with sponsors as partners and viewers as pillars. And as we bid 2024 farewell, we welcome you to a superlative 2025. Because at NTA, you can't beat the reach.
Oh, NTA say thank you.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Ride with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
Our food, our health, our tomato paste. There is no tomato paste, the taste of Nigeria. There is no tomato paste, yeah. Richico tomato pesto, Tiwani. 100% natural tomato. Namunde, alelelelelele, oh, alelele, oh, ale. There is no tomato paste, the taste of Nigeria.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables, and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
This Saturday, Crystal Palace.
It's brilliant. Mateta, step over's got him away from Greaves. Oh, what's it?
Chelsea.
Okay, Palmer, Jackson, 1-0 for Chelsea, and Jackson squares it.
Crystal Palace versus Chelsea. Live on Sporting TV.
Fortibet sponsors coverage of the English Premier League.
All right, welcome back. Up next on the program is Newspaper Review.
Okay, thank you again for joining us, and time to welcome Chukwudi Okule Ubaja. He says we shouldn't put the Elias, so I won't do that this morning.
Clara?
Chukwudi, good morning. Another beautiful Friday.
Beautiful.
First Friday in the month, in the year 2025.
Another merciful end of the week.
Precisely.
I'm
Well
creaking
said.
in the wrong places, Claire. I need to rest a little.
Good morning,
Yeri.
Good morning, Chickadee.
How you
I don't
doing?
want to
Very
go, I don't
well.
want to go beyond what you've said.
I am
Ask.
creaking in the wrong places.
No, I would have asked.
Where are you
The places.
creaking?
The place.
Dr. Claire, it is newspaper review time.
Anyways, just so we don't get sanctioned either by NBC or the DG, let's just quickly look at the papers. All right, so let's see what the papers have this morning. We'll begin with the leadership news paper, and it leads with opposition parties in disarray over 2027. The Riders Obi visits IBB, says no deal with PDP and NPP. We're looking for alternative platform coming from Lukman. Most parties not formidable have no agenda, according to CSOs. That's on page 4. Beside the masthead, Naira opens 2025 steady across markets. That's on page 19. Above the masthead, terrorism allegation, Northern groups tackle Niger leader. That's on page 16. Telcos continue push for 100% tariff hike. All right, that's on page 4. Away from that, FG returns history to school curriculum. That's on page 4. You want to see that. And at the bottom of the front page of the leadership, we have Catholic priest detained for shooting man dead. Shocking. Page 6 has that. I want to find out what's really going on. Let's see what the New Telegraph is offering this morning. The New Telegraph here says sources. How DSS converts operations and short peaceful celebrations in Southeast. Others, this will interest Chukwudi and many others. Pages 6 and 29 has that. The writer says Niger bandits, CSN members taken out. Arms, ammunition destroyed during clearance operations. Take Bello Tuji's threat seriously, Bafarawa tells federal government. All right, both the lead story on the front page of the New Telegraph this morning. We have NNPC Limited to Obasanjo. We hold you in high esteem. Visit Port Harcourt, Warri refineries. You know what to say? Seeing is believing. All right, away from that, we have this one here that says inability to metamorphose into opposition. PDP's major challenge. That's coming from Chidoka. And 2025 will be landmark year of goodwill, according to Adeboye. Khan urges faith, unity for Nigeria's renewal. All of that on page 7. All right, let's just see one or two more stories on the front page of the New Telegraph here. It says Tinubu's reforms unavoidable will pay off. Kalu assures Nigerians, says some of nation's laws over 100 years old. And we have this, Obi, no major pact with PDP and NPP. Threats over worsening political, economic, security situation in Nigeria. All right, so that's the much I can take from the New Telegraph this morning. Claire.
Okay, I think all the stories you've read are also on the Daily Trust, except for one or two. Just a little below the nameplate. Wike allocates 10 billion naira for rent, furniture to Akpabio, Abbas, and 2 others. Obasanjo NNPCL disagree over refineries. That story is on page 4. And again, the story on how 140 policemen died in the FCT in 2024, coming from the Commissioner of Police. But the headliner on the Daily Trust front page, food crisis, 5 months after federal government yet to implement duty waiver for food items including maize, husked brown rice, wheat, and cowpeas. And the story picture there, or picture story rather, traders at the Otaku market in Abuja yesterday. And I know what's going on in the mind of Ian Ray, seeing those baskets of tomatoes, seeing the cucumbers, and of course I know what's going on in your mind. President's Imam as Obi hits Tinubu on State of the Nation. It's on page 8. Subscribers reject telecom tariff hike plan on page 20. US warns against travels to 7 African countries. Again, US warns against travels to 7 African countries. I actually wanted to get to see those countries if they are named. Okay. The 7 African nations in the do not travel category in the US travel websites are Libya, Mali, Somalia, South Sudan, Burkina Faso, and the Central African Republic. Again, Libya, Mali, Somalia, South Sudan, Burkina Faso, and the Central African Republic. And finally, bandits burn houses, church in Kaduna community. Unfortunately, it's on page 6. Chukwudi.
I don't know. Opposition parties in disarray over 2027. You know, sometimes you don't quite understand the trajectory politicians decide to take. Of course, when it comes to politics, I steer my ship away from those quotas because it's an unpredictable terrain. They understand themselves. But I get to hear more criticism from the so-called opposition rather than their moving towards cohesion to be able to become a real challenge to the ruling APC by 2027. So you begin to ask yourself, how serious are these people? But again, these are politicians. They have a way of reasoning which journalists don't seem to understand.
In other climes, opposition, play a very vital role in steering democracy.
I agree.
And we saw that play out in the US election. You saw how Trump supporters, you saw how they came out with data, statistics, and of course, how they went about their campaigning and, bringing out the weaknesses or the gaps or the challenges in the incumbent administration. But here, all we hear is, you criticize, but you don't give us data. You don't,
yes.
Follow up.
I don't know
constructive criticism.
I don't know how much Trump himself believes in data.
But he had people who did that for him.
There's a Reverend Lewis whose clip has gone viral. He was talking about how showmanship, entertainment is taking over the leadership of the world in terms of politics and all that. I think Trump is in that category.
No, but
I don't think it's about
you can't take
what Trump said. You see, we are pleading that Nigeria gets to that level where the prices of commodities at Karishiwuse, Onisha, all these markets across the country that are famous, where prices there determine whom we eventually choose as leader. If you talk about that, I agree with you. It's about groceries. The American would not tolerate a situation where he spends so much money on food items, petrol and the rest of it. So he would tell them, were you not better in 2016? And they echoed, we were better. That's what they voted for. Not the Trump statistics and all that.
Absolutely.
Because the truth is that the American economy has been growing under Biden up until now.
But Chukwudi, I think there is need to also look at the concept of opposition in the democratic setup.
No, I'm not dismissing but come with constructive. Tell me the alternative. During the UPN time, they would tell you, this is what we want you to do. You would know that they knew what they were talking about.
Yes.
So that's the kind of opposition you're talking about.
Yes.
You understand?
Don't tell me.
What's the alternative you're giving me?
Nigerians are dying of hunger.
Yes.
Nigerians are dying of hunger.
Exactly.
Tell me, this policy that you have started
would have worked better if that's the point.
That's
the point. And we are not here to be partisan. We're not here to support PDP or APC. That's not our business. But we are for what eventually percolates into a basket of goodies for the average Nigerian. And I pray we get to that level of reasoning in politics. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Which other story?
I thought we'll talk about the return of history to school curriculum. And,
I don't know. I don't know how anyone in their right senses would think about removing history
in the first place.
Somebody said we want the Civil War to be forgotten and all that. That's shallow, petty thinking. What in life does not have history? The computer, the laptop, the computer technology has its own history. You have to understand it from the very fundamentals of it up to when chips became kings of the world and all that. Everything has a history. Now, Nigerian history, you wanted to jettison and all that. I thank God that whichever devil gave people a knock in the head and they stopped thinking, that devil has departed. We must have our history. It is not all doom. There have been instances where Nigeria had a lot of glories to celebrate. Those are part of our history as well. Just balanced properly.
Societies are also built on history.
That's everything is built
revolves
on
around history.
Your matrimony has its history.
Has its history.
The way Abdul Razak peeped at you the first time, if I were there, I would start doing a clinical analysis of how the journey in love started off. That's what I'm saying. Everything has its history. Nigerians should learn to think properly.
You want to. I thought we said keep our secret secret. You want to go there. What I really don't know about this is because we've been hearing of the history has been returned.
Yes.
It has been returned. It didn't start today. This returning thing.
They should not even talk about it.
The details of this.
Yes. History has been returned.
History
never left you. You were pretending to have left history. So it's a good one, really, that you threw that up, Nyere.
Yes.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I'm also thinking we'll talk about this 5 months after federal government yet to implement the duty waiver.
150-day window, Abi?
Exactly. We celebrated
which was supposed to terminate on December 31st. If it didn't start at all, why would you talk about the termination? And the questions, Jermaine, the very relevant questions. Is it that government lacked capacity to implement a policy it put in place? If that is the case, what caused it? Is it a somnambulistic bureaucracy impeding the goodwill of government, the actions government wanted to? And if that is the case, what actions have you taken to make sure that does not happen at all, happen again? Because what has happened has affected the credibility of government to some measure.
Well, let's say the big question will be why the delay. We don't have the answers.
That's why we got the delay.
It is no longer a delay because the deadline has passed.
The
end of the program has passed.
We could get into forgetfulness very soon, and it never gets implemented.
and the Daily Trust says in the third quarter of 2024, the customs said government might forgo 188.37 billion naira in revenue over the next 6 months due to the duty waiver granted on importation of staple foods. So,
customs is not a policy maker. Customs does not see the overall picture. Customs does not know the social upheaval that is being prevented by having certain things in place. There are times government knows that it cannot afford certain things it does. But to ensure that social life is not disrupted, you make a sacrifice to inject money into something. Look at the Niger Delta arrangement. You think that the people who are handling security there are the only people who can handle security. There are certain things that require a political solution. It's not all the time you add 1 on 1 to get 2 when it comes to governance. There are certain things politicians need to sit down and think about and posit strategic solutions to.
All right.
So,
Obasanjo, NNPCL disagree over refineries. Just the last word from you before.
Obasanjo is saying that during his time, he asked the Shell Development Company, you know,
NNPC.
No.
Okay,
Shell told him
Shell.
when he was asking them to come into equity sharing, they said that it would not function. So he's doubting what has now made the refineries functional, because he was told that for these refineries to work. So the question
based on the,
just in case Obasanjo was telling us the fact of it, the question you ask is, running those refineries, is it going to be cost effective? Because if you're going to spend more money helping this old woman walk, the best thing is to say, Mama, go and sit down there, the children will go and get the things for you. Well, but then we don't know the facts.
NNPC has extended invitation. Well, so
let him come and see for himself.
Yes, to go for the former
It is not
president.
NNPCL that should be extended in. Look, somebody, a reverend father told me that the problem he has with Nigerians is that they have contracted, outsourced spiritual duties they owe themselves to other people. So somebody comes and tells you how your life will be and all that, when you could take it to God in prayers. So who should do it? The press, journalists, not Obasanjo to be invited. Let them not take our job. They are taking our job because we are sleepwalking ourselves. Let us go and find out the truth and tell Nigerians what the truth is. Nobody takes my job.
Absolutely.
All right. Of course, I need my job, so we'll take a break. The producer says we need to go for a break, so many thanks, Chukwudi. I have to be my producer. And when we come back, we'll get into the conversation. Stay with us.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we have more than destination.
We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria, strengthening unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
I think Amaka should just move out of the house. Yes.
No. Standing out of the house is not the right thing to do.
Oh, there you go again with your sentimental family stuff.
Baby, if our aim is to stop this affair, it is best achieved under our roof.
You do something terrible and you'll be acting innocent.
What are you going on about?
Don't ask me that question again. You couldn't even control yourself in the presence of our visitors.
What are you accusing me of, woman?
My son, I don't know how serious you are with my daughter, but there's something that needs to be done urgently before you move any further.
Anything, just anything, just say it. I'm ready to do anything.
There is a spell that needs to be removed.
A spell?
Family forever. The story of our lives.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country, and that God has kept, together as one indivisible entity.
This Saturday, Crystal Palace.
It's brilliant. Mateta, Stepover's got him away from Greaves. Oh, what a finish.
Chelsea.
Okay, Palmer, Jackson, 1-0. Made for Chelsea, and Jackson squares it.
Crystal Palace versus Chelsea. Live on Sporty TV. Fortybet sponsors coverage of the English Premier League.
All right, this is Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation this morning, which is on development in the health sector, let's take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent, Ibrahim Dan Hamidou.
Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Health has made significant strides despite facing numerous challenges. The ministry had established a human resources for health unit to enhance health manpower planning, production, and management nationwide. According to the World Health Organization, this initiative led to the development of a draft National Human Resources for Health Policy, created in collaboration with the World Health Organization. Another significant stride is the improvement of the National Drug Policy with a strategic plan that ensures the availability of good quality medicines. With the support from development partners like the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and others, access to routine immunization services is strengthened. Experts will convene to discuss Nigeria's health sector progress, focusing on the strides made in 2024 and challenges in providing equitable access to health care delivery services. What are the prospects for the new year 2025 with the urban-rural health disparities, healthcare workforce optimization, and sustainable healthcare solutions? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will proffer solutions and inform policy decisions that will strengthen Nigeria's healthcare system better.
All right, many thanks to Ibrahim and Hamidou for the background report. We have guests that have joined us so far, and we are expecting others to join us in the course of our conversation. Let me begin the introduction with Professor Bala Mohammed Audu, who is the President of the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, and is also the Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Health Sciences, Azari, in Bauchi State. Professor Audu, thank you very much, and compliment of the season to you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, also join us for the conversation all the way from Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, is Professor Siefa Brisibe, Commissioner for Health, Bayelsa State. He is the co-chairman of the National Emergency Medical Treatment Committee for the National Emergency Medical Services and Ambulance System in Nigeria. Many thanks for joining us, Prof.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, gentlemen, again, compliment of the season to you also, Professor Seifa Brisbane. It's good to see you. But let's start our conversation with the NMA president, who is, of course, joining us from Bauchi State. Who's joining us from Maiduguri studio. I'd like to start with a review of how we fared in 2024, beginning, of course, with the implementation of the National Health Act. How far have we done, considering that, again, Nigeria is a member of the Organization of Economic, Cooperation and Development, which, have a benchmark in terms of percentage, budgeting percentage. How have we done in implementing that act?
Thank you very much for that question. I think 2024, we fared very well in the health sector in this country, barring the challenges we face with the healthcare workforce. The National Health Act implementation has various components, as you very well know. Amongst them is ensuring universal health care coverage. In other words, access to quality health care with minimum financial hardship to Nigerians. We have seen the 2024 budget implemented. It constituted about 4.6% of the 2024 budget, which of course falls short of the 15% of the Abuja Declaration. But a component of it is the significant amount put into the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, which seeks to ensure that particularly our primary healthcare facilities are up to standard in terms of the provision of quality healthcare to Nigerians, in terms of ensuring that the health infrastructure is adequate at that level of care, so that Nigerians, particularly vulnerable population of Nigerians, are able to access affordable health care at that level. And we know from that level there are effective referral systems. We have also seen the presidential initiative for unlocking the value chain in health being implemented in 2024, with a very significant move towards creating the health infrastructure, the health ecosystem for production of locally produced medications that will help alleviate the cost of medication in this country while providing good quality medications that are effective. It also takes care of other value chains along the line, including the health manpower capacity development in terms of training. And we also saw in 2024 the enactment of the National Health Policy on retention of health workforce. This is aimed at ensuring that the good quality health workforce that Nigeria produces, that the rest of the world is competing with Nigeria in coming to this country to actually recruit the health workforce that was trained in this country because of their quality, to go and service the health care delivery in many developed countries of the world, including the United States, the United Kingdom, in Europe and in the Gulf states. We've seen efforts to try to retain that workforce in Nigeria so that it continues to provide the quality health care delivery that we also desired. We also saw in 2024 the joint annual review of the health sector performance. and it did show a significant improvement, particularly in vital health indices, particularly maternal and child health care. We saw the declaration to improve our maternal and child health indices by providing free cesarean section for vulnerable populations. We are aware that many institutions have started implementing this. We need to evaluate down the line the impact that this would produce in reducing maternal and perinatal mortality in Nigeria and its sustainability as funds are being made available to these healthcare facilities to be able to be refunded for whatever free cesarean sections they were able to perform. We've also seen the upgrade of a number of healthcare facilities, at least one per geopolitical zone, to provide cancer care, standardized multidisciplinary cancer care that would enable us.
All right. Many thanks, Professor Audu. So much, happened in 2024, but would not let you say everything in one breath. I mean, the conversation continues. So we'll come back to you, and of course, you'll continue from where you stopped. So we need to also hear from Professor Brisibe, and also we have joining us now for the conversation Dr. Salma Ibrahim Anas, Special Advisor to the President on Health. Many thanks for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you so much, and good morning, Nigeria.
All right, so I think I would go to Bayelsa first before we get to Dr. Anas to tell us, all that 2024, brought about in the health sector. Professor Brisibe, I want you to speak about your state. Did you make any progress in the health sector in 2024?
Thank you very much, Professor Bala and Claire, and to everybody in the studio. At the subnational level, I would speak more about the subnational level, and what I could say is that we had a very clear focus, which was led by the Federal Ministry of Health under the able leadership of Professor Ali Pate. Because it was so focused that there were programs that trickled and encouraged partnership between the state and the federal level. So there was this strengthening of governance and leadership, mobilization of funds to invest in very relevant areas, just like what Bala said, in terms of value chains, in terms of infrastructure and innovations and technology. Because of this very strong leadership and governance platform provided by the federal ministry, at the subnational levels, there was serious progress. There was tremendous progress. And for the first time, we had the JAR and the Joint Annual Review, where all states, the data from all states were presented, reviewed, and see the progress we've made. For Bayelsa State, we made tremendous progress in the area of immunization. We reduced the number of zero cases significantly. Our maternal infant mortality also experienced slight progress, and we also embrace very germane policies from national, which has to do with preparing our primary healthcare centers to see that we also get into what the national also said is a primary healthcare challenge. And we also did very well in that, although not as expected. We also, our disease, public health emergencies control system preparedness was also something that we could boast of. in Bayelsa State. We had series of outbreaks, but with the strong governance and then the building resilient systems in the public health emergency response system, where our target was that, well, we prevent it. If we can't prevent it, it occurs, we try and mitigate man-to-man transmission, and if at all that does not happen and people get infected, we must not lose lives. So with that type of strong framework, we were able to tackle our public health emergencies very, very well without any mortality, be it Mpox, cholera, yellow fever that we had last year. And of course, we also build very strong partnership and collaboration efforts with federal and our international partners and communities to see that whatever we are doing is driven, not just driven deep into our communities, our rural areas, and to see that everybody appreciates and utilize our primary healthcare facilities. So that is the type of thing that has happened in Bayelsa. So we hope that this year is going to be better.
All right, Professor Seifa Brisbane, thank you for your opening, remarks and for corroborating Professor Aldu's, statements also on the state of the health sector in 2024. Let's bring the conversation to the studio here, and Dr. Salma Ibrahim Anas, who is the essay to the President on Health, will speak further on the probably if there are significant milestones. We've talked about the implementation of the National Health Act, in 2024, and both professors have, spoken glowingly about that. I'm wondering if we had, maybe private, practitioners here, they will, also speak in the same vein. But let's look at the components of the Act, the universal health care, which of course should be driven, by robust health infrastructure, skilled personnel, and so on and so forth. Were there outstanding milestones recorded in these areas in terms of, driving universal health care?
Thank you so much, and good morning, Nigerians. And I want to say Happy New Year to everyone.
Same to you, ma'am.
And our prayers to Almighty Allah, it will be a better year and a year of consolidation, a year that we will begin to see the outcomes, the results of the promises made during the campaign by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I was opportune to work with him pre-election to refine the promises, and I have seen the passion in him and the commitment in him to the health sector development in Nigeria. So I led the Presidential Advisory Committee on Health, where we drafted the policy document that His Excellency endorsed around 8 priority areas. But with the main focus, the main vision of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is to see that we deliver quality healthcare services to all Nigerians, irrespective of where they are, irrespective of gender, irrespective of social determinants of the people. And this is what he has remained committed to it till today, after 1.5 years, around the 8 priority areas. And as you have said, I'm very glad that the 2 professors at the sub-national levels have alluded to a lot of progress that have been made in the last 1.5 years. So if you take each of the 8 component areas, the first is about the leadership and governance, and we have seen the team that have been assembled by His Excellency under the leadership of the Honorable Minister of Health, the Coordinating Minister of Health. For the first time in Nigeria, we have Minister of Health called Coordinating Minister, and it's deliberate and intentional by His Excellency to ensure that health sector does not stand as a standalone, but it is all encompassing because it has several other factors that drives health that are outside the health sector. So the Minister of Health coordinates the overall sector, not only at the national, but also sub-national level, connecting with other sectors of development, like water resources, security, and all that, agriculture, education, women affairs, and several others. So I think this has clearly been demonstrated that we are working towards that, and it's a good success story. So in terms of looking at some of the commitments, I think they have all said a lot in terms of that. One key area out of the 8 pillars were around local manufacture. And the first thing when the minister came was to recommend to His Excellency to approve the presidential, a national coordinator and a structure that looks at the value chain, unlocking the healthcare value chain in Nigeria. And a lot of tremendous progress have been made towards that. We've seen all the engagement, we've seen the attraction back to the country of potential investors in Nigeria, manufacturers of drugs and medical equipment. And we've reached several other advances. And we are going to see a lot of changes in 2025 in terms of realization and implementation of those commitments. Then another area that you have seen, which is key related to how do we achieve universal healthcare coverage, is the strengthening, which Prof has already mentioned, of the primary healthcare. Because the primary healthcare facilities forms the platform for delivery of healthcare for Nigeria, especially when you talk about vulnerable Nigerians, which constitute a significant proportions of Nigerians, over 70%. So there has been an expansion of the primary healthcare to 2 PHC per site per ward, 2 functional primary healthcare per ward in all our constituents in Nigeria, and also expansion of the universal healthcare insurance coverage. This has all increased to ensure that we have increased access to healthcare services. And we've also seen the budget, which they've also mentioned about, because without funding, it is not possible. And this is in addition to several other funding mechanisms that have been established in the last 1.5 years, not only in government, but also at the subnational level, development partners, and harnessing all those resources to maximize effect, what was His Excellency positioned himself to do, and the Minister of Health is matching that, where he is now coordinating the overall national health sector investment, under one platform, and using the mechanisms of what we call the sector-wide approach, the swap processes. And this is led by himself, the Minister of Health. So it is aimed to bring all resources together so that we harmonize and maximize the effect of our resources. So we have one national plan, one implementation plan, one delivery plan, and then the conversation is the same. And this addresses our priorities in the country. So it's not like where we have fragmentation in the past, and then whoever comes with resources just go in and do whatever they want to do. So all these have been addressed in the country, and I think these are very remarkable efforts that have been put together.
Absolutely. The impact of governance and leadership in the healthcare sector is quite visible. I wanted you to give us figures, if any, in 2024, because you talked about 2 primary health care centers in each ward. In 2024, what is the value addition in terms of functional and well-equipped primary health care centers?
So in 2024, over 16,000 primary health care facilities are functional. And when we talk about functionality, delivering quality healthcare services, over 40,000 healthcare providers, frontline workers only, have been trained, in addition to several other frontline health workers that have been trained to improve their quality, of service delivery.
These new intakes?
These are new plus those that are already existing, because that have not had training in several years and are not delivering quality services. So we expect to see improvement in our quality of services, because a lot of surveys have shown in the past that Nigerians have recorded very poor quality service delivery, especially at the primary healthcare level. So that was why we focused on capacity development, capacity building of the frontline health workers, because these are healthcare providers that are at the first point of contact within the primary healthcare. So these are numbers that we can see clearly in terms of improvement, and then the uptake of services. And of course, it's too early to talk about the statistics, but the National Health Demographic Health Survey, which was released, the result, which took place in the last 5.5 years, covered the last 5.5 years, has indicated some modest improvement, especially in the area of maternal and child health improvement.
It's still high. It's still high. It's almost, it's per 100,000. We're hitting up to 1,000.
Well, it's still high. The NDHS of the last one, 2018, it was about 512 per 100,000 live births. So work is still in progress to come out with the latest statistics, but it's too early to get the results. But I strongly believe in the next few years, we don't have to wait for another 5 years. In the next 2 years, we should be able to see remarkable improvement because of all the interventions and then the new strategic and innovations that have been deployed and adopted. So, but if you look at other areas like contraceptive, uptake of family planning, which is also a huge game changer towards improvement of maternal health, there has also been some slight improvement in that area, you know, especially in states that have recorded less than 1% in the past. Today, we are seeing remarkable improvement of about 5%, 8% improvement in family planning. So we are not saying that it's a success story yet. There are lots of work to be done, but the progress that have been made in terms of laying a solid foundation, you know, towards delivery of quality healthcare has taken place in the last 1.5 years. So what we expect to see in 2025 is to see implementation, realization of the aspirations of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because he has created a lot of opportunities and then created a lot of enabling environment. Because if you also take the area of local manufacture, one of the areas that the president did was to areas that are bottlenecks, you know, to realization of the potentials of improvement of local production of medicines, pharmaceuticals, and diagnostics, and some equipment, is the importation tariff. And he has passed an executive order that banned, you know, eliminated that bottleneck of value-added tax and also additional tax for importation.
All right, many thanks, Dr. Anas, but I'd like to stay with you because of you know, the point that you made that you know, this administration is committed to delivering quality healthcare to all Nigerians. And we know that if you want all Nigerians to access quality healthcare, you must talk about the costs. And when you talk about costs, you want to talk about the Health Insurance Act. Speak to us about how the National Health Insurance Authority Act, you know, impacted on access and affordability of healthcare to Nigerians in 2024.
So this is a very critical area also of commitment of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because one area he said he's going to reach about 50 million Nigerians that will have access to affordable, almost free quality healthcare services to Nigeria. And the first thing he did was the expansion of the mandatory health insurance scheme, so that people that attend primary healthcare have free access to services, secondary as well as tertiary institutions. But this is within the formal sector, but also outside the formal sector. People are also free to have access to it. So it's still work in progress because of the economic situation. A lot of changes have happened. So the purchasing, what they have proposed before, may not be able to do, but work is ongoing to also improve on that. So with the current allocation and then the current approval of the Vulnerable Group Fund, there is a Vulnerable Group Fund that was also approved by the President, all aim to ensure safety net, you know, and a financial protection for Nigerians, especially vulnerable people, so that they can be able to afford healthcare services and are also able to access healthcare services within their reach.
Okay. Maybe we should get to Maiduguri now, you know, let you rest a bit. Professor Audu, President, Nigerian Medical Association, when you spoke earlier, you spoke about, you know, the policies and, you know, what government is doing. But I want you to speak about the medical personnel. Maybe you want to speak about those in the health sector who work in the health sector. What was it like in 2024, really? Speak to us about the challenges of professionals in the health sector in Nigeria.
Obviously, there have been great challenges for health workers in the last 1 year. 2024 saw a very challenging period with the brain drain process still ongoing, the Japa syndrome, like we have christened it in Nigeria. It has left a dwindling number of doctors and other healthcare professionals to strive and still provide the quality health care that would have been provided by a larger number of Nigerian doctors and healthcare providers. In 2024, only about 58,000 doctors renewed their license, which meant that we had, by WHO standards, just about one doctor per about 600,000 population, as against 1 to 6,000 as recommended by the World Health Organization. This is a worsening situation, as we have seen Nigerian doctors and all the healthcare providers moving out of this country in an external brain drain phenomenon. But we also have an internal brain drain mechanism where doctors and other healthcare providers move away from states and local government employment, and other brain drain has also resulted in a worsening performance. One doctor per 600,000 population in Nigeria. We're talking about the urban setting. WHO has shown that in a rural setting, we actually have only one doctor per about 300,000 population. Now, this means that invariably the performance will be tasking. There will be a lot of stress on those of us who have remained behind to still deliver the kind of quality healthcare that is needed. Any worker who is stressed at the point of service delivery is invariably also subjected to errors, and we have seen situations where doctors and other healthcare providers have actually been so stressed that we have had even cases of work stress-related deaths, in which there has been a situation where I think it's a consultant surgeon in one of the hospitals who, after carrying out a number of surgical procedures, went to rest and was really ended up having sudden death. So these kind of challenges exist, but I think those of us who have remained behind have resolved that we have no option than to make sure we keep doing our best and hope that the national policy on workforce retention would not just help to retain the health workforce that has decided to remain behind, but that the government policy aimed at doubling the carrying capacity for training.
Professor Audu, the data you just read out, I mean, is, for want of word, it's mind-blowing, and I had to, scream out loud here. One doctor per 300,000 Nigerians in the remote areas. And I'm wondering how Bayelsa, Professor Seifa Brisbane, I'm wondering how Bayelsa is coping, if this is the reality. Bayelsa is a predominantly riverine area. And I remember some few years back, Fangbe community, I mean, you needed to go by canoe or something to access quality health care in the FMC in Yanagoa. That's a few years back. So I'm wondering how, what improvement really in terms of accessing quality health care has come to those communities in the riverine areas especially.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. But the basic truth is that we've made tremendous improvement. And then, of course, His Excellency
problems there.
Yes, I actually, would have loved him to tell us, because this is not acceptable. One doctor to 300,000, Nigerians in the remote areas, and it's quite challenging.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how they're able to cope.
So it's not easy to cope, because that's why the limited health workers we have are always undergoing one form of psychological trauma or stress. Burnout is very common among them. And Professor Audu has tried to put it together. He has just tried to touch. He didn't expose most of the problems that medical doctors and other health workers are facing, at the state level. They are overburdened because of work and stressed. And then we are all working towards improvement of all those conditions.
Yeah. So what are we doing to stop the immigration?
To stopping, you cannot stop 100%, but efforts are ongoing to curtail and to reduce it to the minimum level that does not have any impact, public health threat on the health system delivery in Nigeria. So it's both ways. You look at production ways and also the quality of production and also the retainership. Our production is still grossly inadequate. Let me start from there. So what this government is doing...
When you say production, what do you
mean? Production of healthcare providers, generally. Skilled healthcare providers. You look at the medical doctors' production, the nurses' production and midwives' production, pharmaceuticals, and all across board. So what this government has done is to leverage opportunities within the private sector. We've increased within the formal sector. We've increased, for instance, the colleges of education, nurses and midwifery that train nurses and midwives. We've increased their production. Some used to produce just about 100 per annum. Even LUT, they used to produce less than 100 per annum. Now it has increased beyond that to about 250 and above in most institutions. And we've also attracted private sector investment in the production of healthcare providers. So recently you will observe that a lot of medical institutions are coming up that are owned by private sector, but were regulated by government. Not only medical schools, but also schools of nursing and midwifery across the country.
All right.
So this is another area. And then he has talked about the policy on migration, which was launched last year. It was presented at the FEC and approved and launched at the National Council on Health by the Honorable Minister of Health. So these are also ways that clearly specify how do we improve retention of our healthcare providers in Nigeria, bonding, improving their working environment. Because most of them, what they talk about is about the working environment, low remuneration of healthcare providers. And he has talked about the internal migration. And this is not only responsibility of federal government alone, but also a lot has to be done at the subnational level. Because if you look at our healthcare systems in Nigeria, the tertiary institutions are those that are owned by the federal government. And those are the teaching hospitals, the federal medical centers, the specialized hospitals like the neuropsychiatric hospital, orthopedic hospital, fistula centers, and all that. Those are just a handful. They are just limited numbers compared to the overall number of health facilities that we have in the country that are mainly owned by subnational government. The secondary level of care, that is the general hospitals, if I may say, and some specialist hospitals, the primary health care facilities, the comprehensive health care centers, all those are owned by subnational levels. And that is the level where we have majority of our healthcare providers. So what am I saying in this sense is that the remuneration has to be equal. There should be equity. If you are working as a medical doctor, for instance, in a secondary healthcare facility, you should be remunerated the same way as a medical doctor at a teaching hospital. Because you are also delivering services. In fact, your workload is much more. It's much more. So we've been doing advocacy because this is one of the commitments of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to close the gaps between the subnational and the federal and the national level. And to ensure that the subnational government also aligns with the aspirations and priorities of the federal government. So a lot of advocacy has been ongoing and some state governments have demonstrated. One state that I can say recently where we had the National Council on Health was Borno State. The governor has addressed those disparity between in terms of remuneration. So all health workers will be paid the same. And we've also seen very good recommendations and efforts coming up from Ebonyi State, the governor. in terms of motivation and remuneration of medical doctors. So those are some of the efforts we need to encourage in the country.
To ask Henry, when you say health workers should be paid, at par, should be at par depending on their level, is it across board? I mean, remuneration equity across board, including nurses, doctors, and
yes, across board, include all healthcare providers, because the place is not only occupied by medical doctors; it's a teamwork. So nurses and midwives, pharmaceutical, even the technicians, pharmacy technicians, laboratory scientists, psychotherapists, and all that is a team, is a teamwork. So it should be all across board. And some states, let me just mention, have even increased the retirement age as a way to address the issue of the brain drain. Because you find that health workers retire at 60, medical doctors, nurses even retire much earlier, before 60 years. So they've now reabsorbed them and increased their retirement age to 65 years. So those are some of the ways they have used as strategies to retain healthcare workers.
All right, so many thanks, Dr. Anna. So I'm sure that if we speak with Professor Aldo, he'll tell us more challenges that those in the health sector face, but away from the remuneration which you have mentioned, I'm sure another critical aspect to be access to facilities and adequate infrastructure, for this personnel to work. But let's get back to Bayelsa. Professor Brisibe, I'm sure your connection is much better. You were about telling us what Bayelsa is doing, considering all the challenges in the health sector.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. The network was a little bit bad. In Bayelsa, under the Assured Agenda, the R stands for Robust Healthcare Delivery. And what is being done to address some of these issues, of course, just like Claire said, Bayelsa is 70 to 80% waterlogged. So what we do is that we try as much as possible under the Assured Agenda, when we are building any health facility, we do not just build a hospital, or we do not just build the primary healthcare center. We also had accommodation for critical manpower, human resources for health, for the doctors, for the nurses, in those healthcare facilities. So, and that enable people to stay back and all that. Again, we also, Bayelsa State is the first and I think the only state that has taken this issue of human resources deficit for health very, very seriously, both in the immediate, long, and medium and long term. So what we do is that we've leveraged on our partnership with partners and federal government and other development partners to see that our primary healthcare facilities, one per ward, is at the second tier compulsorily. And what I mean by second tier is that these primary healthcare facilities have accommodation, have array of staff from SHU to nurses, and also have some level of solar energy providing power, and have facilities that will enhance proper immunization. So we have all that. Not only that, in the long term or in the medium term, Bayelsa State has demonstrated the Residency Training Act. This is a policy signed by President Tinubu to see that a residency program, doctors that are undergoing residency are supported, because it's pretty challenging. So Bayelsa State is one state that has domesticated that as a law. In this, we support our resident doctors with finance to see that their training is better, and that enhances retention. Both internal and external retention. So that is what we're doing at the medium point. But in the long run, to solve some of these human resources, gaps in human resources for health, Bayelsa State also established the Bayelsa Medical University, which is providing training. And just recently, we also upgraded our School of Nursing to college status. So people assess it through JAMB and also be able to go for NYSC. So all that is being done, and there is massive investment into those type of things. What we are thinking is that, look, because of our difficult terrain, of course, our ambulance system, we have the boat ambulance system to see that we are able to get doctors and health workers, and also mobilize people that are in critical situations for tertiary care out of their those rural areas to assess, just like you talked about Fangbe. Of course, another thing is that within this period, because healthcare is multi-sectoral, the governor has done a lot to also get road infrastructure to these rural areas. So by the day, we are also reducing the percentage of hard-to-reach areas in Bayelsa State. We also had this partnership, ongoing partnership with a logistic management firm, which is called Zipline. So because of our terrain, Zipline will be able to take vaccines, to fly vaccines through drone to very hard-to-reach locations in Bayelsa within minutes. That has helped our logistics management, and for vaccine immunization, and also for health products like blood, and then maybe getting investigations done. So it's something, it's work in progress, and most especially these things become a little bit easier with the swap approach, because it's one conversation, one reporting, one planning, one budgeting across the subnational levels. So with that, it becomes a little bit better. And of course, the universal healthcare coverage is something that at the subnational levels, all states presently have the universal health insurance schemes, and this has expanded the access, the onboarding of vulnerable groups into these subnational health insurance schemes has expanded that scope beyond imagination. And for Bayelsa State, it's compulsory for both the formal and is mandatory for both the formal and informal sector. So we are doing all that to see that the challenges, our environment that is challenged, will be able to overcome these challenges and get everybody to have access to healthcare equitably and in quality and the quantity they want. I always believe that, look, equity, if I am in Yenagoa Metropolis and I'm assessing health first by a doctor, I also believe that at the primary care level, people should also have time. So we are deploying youth corps to man our primary healthcare facilities, if not every day, to see that
Professor Brinsby, thank you. The network is not friendly. Again, considering the topography of Bayelsa State, so many challenges, especially from communities that are riverine based. And I don't know if he's back. I wanted to ask you, considering the recent spread of cholera and the difficulty in accessing potable water. I know from Opolo, even Ekeki down to Yenagoa in those days, it's quite difficult.
The Prosperity government is investing massively in getting potable water across these areas that you've mentioned. So the situation has improved. However, for us, we take public health emergencies very seriously. And for the ministry and for the state, we prioritize public health, we mainstream public health. And because of that, we try to build a public health emergency response system in a way that, and a strong and resilient healthcare system, in a way that even when we have public health emergency crisis, we're able to provide the minimum almost immediately after post. So what we have done is, under the metrics that, one, if there is an outbreak, we must do all to prevent it by educating, by engaging local community leaders for personal hygiene, environmental hygiene, and proper practices, food handling practices. If we are unable to prevent at that level, well, the next level is that if it occurs, we must try and prevent man-to-man transmission. And if we are not able to do that, and if it occurs, we must rapidly deploy medical and health commodities and personnel to those areas so that we do not lose lives. This has been the fundamentals of our approach in tackling public health emergencies in Bayelsa. That has given us results. So for the first time over a long period, we've been able to have zero mortality from all our public health emergencies, including the outbreak of cholera. So it's a system that engages very strong governance and leadership framework. And of course, anytime we have those, luckily, because of the SWAB approach, we have the collaboration and partnership from the national level and WHO and other international partners to see. So they are also going to be able to tell these stories the way I'm telling them. So it's for us, it's important that we have this strong framework to build a strong and resilient healthcare system that will be able to tackle these public health emergencies if timely, and to see that they are prevented. And that is why we are mainstream public health, to see that all the time we are advocating. Of course, immunization is compulsory for every child that is going to primary and nursery school. You have to present your immunization card. We are not driving people away, but is to see that if you don't have, we deploy persons to get to that point and get children immunized. All these are strategies to see that we reduce preventable diseases, we reduce the possibility, the vulnerability of children, mothers, and others from having seriously affected by some of these public health emergencies. So in terms of cholera and other emergencies, our platform framework is robust enough to see that we contain and we do not have mortalities from it. Right, thank you.
Many thanks, Professor Brisibe. I must say that Bayelsa is doing so much, and we hope that other states are replicating some of these initiatives. But let's quickly go on a break now. When we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay with us.
Applications and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system, where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Largely a system where we're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy, and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And technology platforms also help drive collaboration, right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us the platforms. They need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user.
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country, and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
This Saturday, Crystal Palace.
It's brilliant. Mateta, step over, has got him away from Greaves. Oh, what a finish.
Chelsea.
Palmer, Jackson, 1-0 for Chelsea, and Jackson squeezing.
Crystal Palace versus Chelsea. Live on Sporty TV. Fortibet sponsors coverage of the English Premier League.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA, and our conversation is still on developments in the health sector. Our guests are still very much with us, and I'd like us to get to Maiduguri now, where Professor Audu joins us. That's the President, Nigerian Medical Association. Prof, we've talked so much about 2024. 2024 is gone. 2025 is here, and if you want to look at what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu presented to the National Assembly before the end of 2024, talking about the budget, the prospect for the health sector looks bright. I mean, in 2025, over 2 trillion naira. But speak to us really. What should we be doing differently in the health sector? We focus on maternal and child health. I ask that because despite all the efforts, the past years, maternal and child death is still on the increase. I mean, we celebrated World AIDS Day in December 2024, and the figures are alarming as to mother-to-child transmission of HIV and AIDS. I mean, you want to talk about so many issues, around mothers and their babies. What can we be doing, or what should we be doing in 2025, just so that we can bring down the figures as regards maternal and child death?
Thank you very much. First, let me correct that figure about the rural population of doctors per patient. It's actually 1 doctor per 30,000 rather than 300,000. So pardon me. So please note that correction. Now, I think the 2025 budget of 2.48 trillion naira is a remarkable improvement in terms of it's actually double of what we had last year, even though in terms of percentage of the national budget, it's about 5.18%. I think it's not about much what we need to do differently than how prudent we need to be and how well focused we should be on our targets in terms of implementing the existing policies. I think we have robust, well-focused policies in place that, if pursued to logical conclusions, we should have outcomes that would improve our national health population indices. The sector-wide approach to coordinating the issues of health in this country is innovative, and it allows both national and subnational level players to put innovations, talents, and resources together to focus on the key deliverable outcomes that are measurable in the health sector. So if you look at the health workforce retention, that policy addresses the key components of the mitigating factors that result in our loss of health workforce manpower. If you look at the policy on standardization of healthcare facilities, each healthcare facility is supposed to be certified as a primary, a secondary, or a tertiary healthcare facility, which means it must fulfill basic standards of the components of the health manpower, the health infrastructure, diagnostic requirements, as well as the kind of treatment and the facilities for that treatment it must offer on the minimum level. But so far, the implementation of that certification has not started. So we need to make sure such certification is put in place. We've talked about the one conversation, one budgeting, one monitoring, and so on and so forth, which are very good policies. But we have to understand that to deliver health care, you need the personnel. And it is this personnel that would ensure that those standards are maintained. In order for them to be able to do that, I think it is very important that moving forward from 2025, we are also able to provide a minimum benchmark for the welfare of those healthcare providers who provide this care, in terms of minimum benchmark for remuneration, minimum benchmark for the standard of their own welfare, and for the standard of their workplace environment. Then and only then can we expect those improvements in our healthcare indices.
Professor Aldo, thank you. We'll quickly take another question from Bayelsa before we come back to the studio. Professor Brisbane, I'm just wondering, because malaria is still one of the top, killers in our country today, and of course Bayelsa has, a high stake in that. Recently, you took delivery of the Oxford R21 malaria vaccine, and you were also a pilot state. Can you talk to us? So far, what's the update on that?
Yeah, thank you. Oh, network. Hello? Hello? Hello?
We can hear you, Professor Brisbane.
Okay, thank you so much. For us as a state, we are very grateful to be part of the two piloting states in Nigeria alongside the Kebbi state. And what we did was to use that opportunity to once more deepen our immunization uptake. And we have been monitoring AIDS between when we onboarded and commenced that process till now. We've gotten about 8,700 children that have taken that immunization. And with our partners, it's been very, very great. So it's a process that we've started. We are outside just doing that. It's also give us the opportunity to engage communities, engage our traditional rulers, engage our community opinion leaders to see that immunization is taken by children, emphasizing to them that, look, when you get children immunized, you are not just helping them in health, but also it has a ripple effect in education, because when a child is immunized, the number of days the child is going to be out of school will reduce, and therefore performances will improve. So it is that multi-sectoral approach that we used in launching it, and so far so good. It's very good. The uptake is fantastic. The conspiracy theorems around vaccines and immunization products has reduced reasonably, but it's something that we are going to do more, even as we start the new year, to see that we have that type of thing, the uptake get better and better.
Professor Abrisibe, thank you. Let's get back here in the studio. Dr. Anas, I'm sure you want to respond to the maternal and child health issue, but, you know, I'd like to add to that, you know, we're talking about 2025 now and, you know, how we can get things right and make things better. You've spoken so much about 2 primary health care centers in each ward and all of that, but some people say, besides just making the infrastructure available, there could be access, but affordability will be another problem. What would the government be doing, you know, just so that as they can access healthcare, they can also afford it? Because the National Health Insurance Authority, we're talking about the Act and all of that, those who are even enrolled in the NHIA have a problem of, you know, accessing, you know, getting the requirements, I mean, the basic requirements in the health sector, because, I mean, the NHIA is not so functional, I mean, to the point where it can guarantee quality healthcare, you know, to the average Nigerian who is even enrolled on it, not about those who are not. Then, for those who are not a part of this, I mean, you know, the cost of drugs at the moment, the cost of, I mean, a lot of things because of the present economic realities. Is the government thinking about how to make healthcare really, really affordable, I mean, to the poorest of the poor in Nigeria?
So thank you so much. And I think that is what the government of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu stands for, making healthcare services, quality healthcare service, accessible to all Nigerians. You know, issue of affordability should not be a barrier. And this is what we've all been saying. The new National Health Insurance Act makes it mandatory for every Nigerian to have access and to be insured. So what we need to do, we need to create more awareness. A lot of Nigerians are not even aware that those services are there, that they should access their primary health care facilities. There is, we have said over and over, the Vulnerable Group Fund, which has also enhanced and expanded the access to the insurance scheme to provide the physical, the financial protection, and also provide a safety net for vulnerable people. So we need to do a lot of awareness creation, and also the state government also should align with these priorities and also bring in additional funding to support the federal government funding for it. So this is all we have been saying, and we have been advocating for it. And then when you look at the whole issue, you know, of accessibility, it's not just the accessibility and affordability. There is also acceptability and the awareness of the services that are there. We're dealing with people that have their cultural norms, that have their behaviors, and that takes us to the issue of the maternal health. You know, sometimes the services are there, but they are not even, they are not accepting it. They don't trust, they don't have confidence in it. So what we're trying to do is to build a renewed confidence and trust in the healthcare systems that we have, that the services are truly there. For a long time, they've not been having the services. That we are currently revamping our primary healthcare facility. We are revitalizing. We are making it functional. We are building capacities of our healthcare workers. Not only skilled capacities, but also attitudes of healthcare workers.
Absolutely.
Because I've just had engagement with a group of religious leaders and community institutions. And what came up on top were attitudes of healthcare providers. That's why women and children are not accessing services. So it's a collective responsibility, and it's multidimensional, multi-sectoral. It's not just one health sector alone that can deal with the issues. So we need to learn to work together. And this is a major challenge that I have learned throughout my career of work in Nigeria. Every sector works alone. Every sector works in silos. There is no way you can deliver healthcare services without working together. Sometimes the problem in the facility is just water supply. And then the community will not access those services, even if they are free. Sometimes it's lack of security. The facility is not fenced. And they are afraid. And because of the insecurity that has escalated, which is much better now under this administration. But those are challenges. The facility has to be fenced. It has to be provide privacy. It has to provide confidentiality for people to be comfortable to access services in those facilities. So usually you will find affordability is not only the major issue. There are several other factors that we must address collectively across beyond the health sector.
Dr. Anas, thank you. We have less than 6 minutes to share. We have to share, equitably, so that everybody will have a share. So let me go again to Professor Audu. Professor Audu, again, altitude, confidence in the system. Dr. Anas has spoken about it and all that. And it's also visible, among the members of the NME. Recently, medical negligence, is beginning to spike and eroding public confidence in our medical institutions and all that. This is 2025. What are you telling us? What are you saying to Nigerians about, medical negligence?
Well, what I'll say to Nigerians is that medical doctors, and indeed all healthcare providers in Nigeria, will ensure that we keep putting in the best of our ability in the existing circumstance to ensure that we deliver quality, patient-centered healthcare to Nigerians. We have challenges, of course. There are medical negligences that do occur. There are medical errors that do occur. And the Medical and Dental Council is really making great efforts to ensure that any case of medical negligence or error is addressed, and it's also making a lot of efforts to ensure that these are minimized to the barest minimum. However, operating in the context of the environment where most doctors and other healthcare professionals have a lot of burnout needs to be addressed side by side in order to significantly reduce these errors.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Audu. Professor Brisibe, I'm sure you're still with us and your connection is clear enough. As we round up the conversation, tell us, what should Bayelsans be looking forward to in the health sector in 2025, and what do you expect from Bayelsa people? Dr. Anas was trying to talk about cultural beliefs and all of that affecting how people access, these health initiatives or facilities or whatever it is that is available in the health sector. Speak to the people also, besides telling us what you want to do in 2025 and how you expect Bayelsans to accept these policies.
Yeah, for us as a ministry, and I think even at the subnational levels, what we should do differently in 2025 is that we must have strategic investment in infrastructure both at the primary care level, at the secondary care level, and try and connect all these to one whole, so where you have strengthened referral systems from primary to secondary to tertiary care, using some geo mapping. And also, what BIASAS will expect is that at this point, the emergency medical system has to be re-energized, strengthened.
Professor Brisby, honestly, I wanted you to speak to that. I wanted to ask if Nigerians, if there's a toll Nigerians free number that Nigerians can now dial when they have health emergencies and all that, because that's what is obtained in other developed countries. And I know you are the co-chair of that committee, implementing our emergency medical treatment and services. If we are not on, let's come to Ajia. Can you speak to us about that as well? Because it's a critical part of the health care provision.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm glad to mention that this was part of the missing link we realized in the health sector, about 2 years ago. And we started the National Emergency Systems, ambulance systems in Nigeria. So we started piloting it at the national level in Abuja and some few states, because a lot of it has also to be done at the subnational level in partnership with private sector. There was a number, I think, dedicated. It's 122 that you can call the ambulance. Yes. So it's aimed to bridge that gap, because we realized a lot of deaths happen, that we can save lives because there is no emergency care. So the private sector is part of it, and they are to handle the ambulance system and also quickly transfer to identified hospitals where services will be received without payment at the first contact.
So
you should deliver that service immediately. So this is being piloted, and states are also being encouraged to align with that emergency ambulance system. Some few states are already doing it, I think, like Lagos states. And then part of it also up to the rural areas, because we also realize that maternal death, which is still of major concern in Nigeria, because we contribute one of the largest burden globally. Maternal death happens mostly because of lack of emergency care. At the point of critical needs, the women do not have access to services.
Can you, as we round off?
So that critical need, when the woman can be picked by an ambulance, even if it doesn't have to be a sophisticated ambulance, an ambulance that would immediately at the point when they are called upon, provide services at the point and immediately transfer. Transfer. If it is blood transfusion, you can start transfusing, set IV lines, and then immediately transfer to the next facilities where services will be provided. So this is still work in progress, and it's also a major priority of this administration. And the Minister of Health has already established a committee that is
Please, can you repeat the total number again? At least for the states that are
It's 122. It's 122.
All right. We are out of time. Just so before we conclude the conversation, what's your final words to Nigerians? What should they expect in the health sector now that the president is presenting 2.48 trillion, for the health sector? What should we see?
So first of all, we appreciate the president for the allocation of the resources for health. It has demonstrated his commitment last year, and today it's much better than what we've had last year. So I want to urge Nigerians and also to encourage them to have trust, and confidence in the government. It's a collective effort. It's a collective effort not only by the government, by each and every individual. We have a responsibility. Your health care, it's your responsibility. So you have to have trust, you have to access the services, you have to change our behavior in health-seeking behavior. And most importantly, I must mention that we must adopt healthy lifestyle.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Salma Ibrahim Anas, Special Advisor to the President on Health. Thank you. Thank you very much for the points you raised, especially on the emergency services. Let's also appreciate Professor Bala Mohammed Aldu, President, Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Health Services, Azarin Bauchi. You joined us from our Maiduguri studio. Thank you. Professor Seifa Brisby, Commissioner for Health, Bayelsa State, Co-Chairman, National Emergency Medical Treatment Committee for the National Emergency Medical Services and Ambulance System in Nigeria. Thank you very much for all your robust contribution, and we wish Nigerians and, of course, all our health managers the best of luck in the new year. Thank you, ma'am. All right.
So that's Good Morning Nigeria this Friday. Many thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day and the weekend.
And you are?
Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak.
I am Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak. Thank you, and do enjoy your weekend.
I thought you would say Amien Region.
Okay, Amien Region.